Welcome to Rewiring Health. If you're a high-achieving woman feeling trapped in the endless cycle of guilt and exhaustion from always putting others first, then this is your sanctuary. I'm Dr. Kelly Kessler, your dedicated empowerment mentor, and I'm here to tell you that it's time to reclaim your peace, health, and happiness. Imagine waking up every day feeling energized and unapologetically living for yourself. Together, we'll break down the walls that have been holding you back and unlock the vibrant, unstoppable force that you truly are. It's time to put yourself first, embrace your authentic self, and live a life that's not just endured, but celebrated. Now let's dive in. Have you ever noticed your skin reflects your stress? I used to struggle with mine, dry, dull, reactive, until I started pairing nervous system regulation with products that actually honor your body. That's why I love Milk and Butterflies. They handcraft every formula with 100% organic ingredients and powerful aromatherapy oils. They aren't just products for your skin, they're rituals that restore hydration, resilience, and calm even in the busiest seasons of our life. You can try them for yourself and feel the difference. Head to Milk and Butterflies and use my promo code Dr. Kelly for free shipping. That's DRKELLY for free shipping. Also, check out the link in the description for the podcast. Welcome to part 2 of this 2-part episode with Richmond Heath. If you haven't yet listened to part 1, you'll want to listen to it before today's episode because it's going to give you a good foundation for what we're talking about today. But in this episode, we're going to talk all about safety and healing, how to cultivate safety within the body so that you can move forward in your life with greater freedom and greater healing. This has been such a great series with Richmond Heath, and I'm so grateful for everything he shared from his personal experience and his journey of helping so many people release patterns of tension and stress in their bodies and experience a whole new way of living. Enjoy. So I would love to hear more about safety and how that plays a role in this whole process of healing and really coming home to ourselves.
Yeah. All right. I'm really happy to dive into this because it's such a strong topic at the moment. It's a really valuable thing. So generally in the trauma-informed world, and when we think about trauma-informed practice, generally what it means is we're going to create the external conditions that mean that I never get triggered. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to say anything or do anything where I'm going to start to feel unsafe. And so we want to try and create external conditions of safety. We want to resource things that are going to help us. Now that's great, and it's a step on the journey. But I'll never forget sitting on an aeroplane and talking to David Berselli about stuff and having this conversation about safety. And he said something really profound to me, which was, he said, yeah, sure, trauma's in the body, because we're talking about how trauma and is, everything's body-based now. He's like, yeah, sure, trauma's in the body, but so is safety. Further inside the body, underneath the trauma responses. And it was so profound because when we recognize that, yeah, the body's generating our defensive responses, the fight, flight, and the freeze, the body is also generating the shaking response. Mm-hmm. And the body only generates the shaking response when it is safe to do so. So, for example, if you're a mouse and the cat's trying to wake you up and stimulate it because the predator needs that stimulation of the chase, your body won't start to shake and tremble because it will excite the cat. The body will play completely dead. If you're in an environment where your body shaking and trembling is going to create more danger, your body won't do it. So the moment your body starts to shake or tremble, it's showing you that it is safe to start to heal. And so gradually what happens is people, when we get connected to that, they start to go, hey, this shaking and trembling response, it is safety. It's not, oh, I have to feel safe in order to let this happen. It is a deeper place of safety within us, which is expressing, it's saying it's time, as an organism, we are safe to let go. We are not gonna die here. Now, if we're public speaking, my ego might say, oh, I don't want to shake now. But the organism's saying, but you're not going to die. And if you let it happen, you're actually going to give a better speech because your cortex will come back online. Your ego might take a hit. You're going, oh, I'm feeling like I'm anxious, but that's real. It's only shaking because of the reality. So um, there was an Australian TRE provider who once, said, if you're shaking, it's over. If you're shaking, it's safe. And why this is so profound is because when we recognize that, we start to get connected to the safety that's inside us.
Mhm.
And so much of us are being told in the trauma informed world. And again, it's not to say that it's necessarily wrong or bad, but we're being told to find safety externally and create safety externally. Now, if I can control the entire universe for the rest of my life, I'm going to be safe.
Yeah.
But until we recognize that that's really just avoiding our triggers, then we don't really heal. This is critical. We don't heal. We just create control, basically. We control our experience so we never actually have to move through what's inside us. And I'll never forget Kelly at a workshop early on when I was first teaching TRE, and we often you can access it many different ways, but you'll often lie on your back with your knees open wide. And someone came up to me and said, oh, you can't possibly teach this to people who've had sexual abuse. That's horrendous and it's not safe and da da da, because it's a again, I'll never forget David Berselli saying to someone when they asked him that, and he said, if you're someone who's been sexually abused, if you can't lie on your back with your knees open, then you haven't healed. So we need to be able to get to this point. Now, it doesn't mean that we force people into positions that feel uncomfortable, but we might invoke the tremors a different way. But then what people will find is that as they go back into that position and their body starts to tremble and shake, instead of going, oh my God, I'm not safe. Oh my God, I'm shaking. I'm not feeling safe. I'm having panic. They're going, oh my God, I am safe. This is my body unwinding, and the body will take us back to those positions so we can reconnect with our safety. So this is where deeply embodying and experiencing this innate process inside us, it takes it out of being a conceptual thing of, oh yeah, safety's inside me, of going in those moments where you don't feel safe, when your body's starting to shake, that's a deeper place within you that is actually expressing the safety that's within us to heal and release and relax and re-embody ourselves in those moments.
And with that, like, so if someone is not, maybe they're laying there in that position, they're not shaking, what would be the next step for that person would it be a different position so they could feel a bit safer? Like, how do you allow that to happen? And maybe if the body isn't naturally feeling able to feel safe in that position.
Yeah, so this is where when you learn how to reconnect with the shaking and trembling in a safe and controlled way,
Mhm.
that falls away very quickly. So generally what we will do is we will find a position. So for example, if lying on your back with your knees open doesn't feel okay, we're going, well, let's not do that. Let's do a wall sit, or let's do a different muscle, use a different muscle group.
Mhm.
But then once people experience the little vibration and the shaking, and then they stop and they're like, oh wow, I let that happen. I didn't end up in a psych hospital. I haven't had a seizure. I'm okay. Well, and I can stop it. Right now, let's get it going again. And they get it vibrating a little bit more, and it starts to spread through them. And maybe it starts to move into an area, and they're like, oh, that's a bit too much. And they stop. Like,
Mhm.
wow, I can control this. Therefore, I'm free to let go.
Mhm.
So we uncouple the fear that people have got, which is shaking is dangerous and it's not safe. And by doing that, then they find that their body will naturally start to open up.
Mhm.
And one of the key things I want to cover here is that sense of, we often think about the deepest thing is our emotions,
Mhm.
or we've got to release our emotions. But what I like to express to people is we generally only release emotionally or behaviorally through behavior and actions when we've lost the pathway for the body to release neurogenically. And
Mhm.
that's in these spontaneous little micro movements. Now, to help understand that, if a zebra's been caught by a lion and it's been held for half an hour and then it manages to escape, it doesn't go to the water hole and then kick because, oh, while I was being held, I needed to do this action. And it doesn't necessarily have to have the emotion of, oh my God, I'm feeling terror. I have to feel terror for 30 minutes. I have to express my terror. because that takes a whole lot of energy, and as an energy survival technique, that's not a good, sensible, efficient way to resolve it. So the
Mhm.
body just does these tiny little shaking micro movements. So the zebra doesn't have to feel the fear or express the fear. The
Mhm.
organism just needs to shake and
Yeah.
tremble.
Mhm.
So this is when people get connected to this movement response that's underneath the emotions. It can be absolutely profound. I'll never forget working with a woman who came to see me. She had a history of terrible sexual abuse. She started doing the trembling. And then after the trembling came in, she's like, oh my God, I don't feel safe. Because you've got to remember, she is safe, but we associate the shaking with this is fear. This is what fear is. So we're going, this shaking means I'm not safe. And all I said to her, and this was a real pivotal moment, because previously what I said was, oh, okay, we'll stop the tremoring. Let's do this, let's create safety.
Mhm.
And all I said to this day, I said, all right, when we start again, all I want you to do is I want you to talk to me about what you're physically experiencing, the
Mhm.
movements don't tell me what you're feeling emotionally. I want you to talk about the movements. And as soon as her diaphragm started to wobble and that, and she started to feel a bit scared and she started to connect with the movements, and there was no fear and everything let go. So
Mhm.
there's this element of diving deeper underneath the emotional focus. It's not so, and getting connected to that and
Mhm.
recognizing that is where the safety is. So
Mhm.
most of us, when something, most of us, when we're feeling our emotions, generally what we're feeling is the containment of our emotions. Like I'm sitting here, I'm not screaming with terror. I'm feeling really scared. So I'm
Mhm.
not actually feeling the expression of movement. I'm
Mhm.
actually feeling my body holding in movement or holding in fear.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It was a major sort of insight from us going, oh wow, what I thought was my emotions, generally what I'm feeling is the containment of my emotions. Because if they're not contained, they're just being expressed. So if I'm
Mhm.
feeling scared and I'm not screaming, then my body's not expressing. Or
Yeah.
if I'm feeling angry and I'm not actually, it's the tension and
Mhm.
I've gone down a bit of a different rabbit hole there, but
Yeah.
um, it's all linked into this sense of that safety is deeper inside us, deeper
Mhm.
inside the fear. And when the body starts to shake and tremble, it's like the body saying, yeah, yeah, I know you feel scared, but you are safe in this moment, and you are safe enough to shake and move and stay alive and come alive in that moment rather than having to shut down.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I love that. And then just like talking about how that's, because it's so easy to be like, oh, we are full of fear, but like to also know that safety is in there. And then that's the truest expression of us. And it's just that what's on top of that. And that's what's allowing us to, that's coming out through the body. I think that's just absolutely profound. Is twitching also part of that? Like if we get into like little hand twitches or anything, is that also an expression of that coming out through the body, or is
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
like actual shape?
absolutely. It can
Mhm.
be. It can be. And it's hard
Yeah,
to say. Sometimes you
yeah.
can have pathology that's creating something. But
Mhm.
yeah, often we'll find there's just little fasciculations is another word where you get the
Mhm.
muscles are just rippling under the skin, or you get a little jolt or a little wave. That can absolutely be it as well. The metaphor or the analogy that I often use is, if you think about an ocean, a cross section of an ocean, and up above the ocean, you've got the clouds, and that's our narrative and our story. Um,
Mhm.
you know, then you've got the waves on the surface, and that's our emotions. And
Mhm.
most of us, we think that that's the depth, and the further we go in, the more emotional we're going to feel.
Mhm.
Whereas the waves are like the surface, and then when we drop down deeper to where the tides are, deep at the there's no waves in the bottom of the ocean. And so that's where when people get really grounded and connected to the movements that are underneath the emotions, then we get to connect with this deeper place of safety and solidity. It doesn't mean we don't feel what's happening on the surface, but there's
Mhm.
something deeper inside us, which is the fact is we're alive.
Mhm.
The classic thing is, and in the early days of when I wasn't as grounded or connected to this, I might be teaching people, and if someone says I don't feel safe, then I go, oh right, well I have to do things to make you connect to safety. You have to find safety. I have to help ground you. These days, if people say, I don't feel safe, I'll simply often generally say, well, you are.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's not because I'm saying it, it's because I'm going, you're in a room here, your body's shaking, you're in a room. What you happened in the past or what you're worried about, it's not happening.
Mhm.
And as people get connected to that, we start to have an innate, authentic, embodied sense of safety in the danger. Now, the reason that's so valuable is coming full circle is rather than then trying to control our external environment so we never get triggered and we externally create the universe so that we never have to deal with these things. Now, when we get triggered and we've got a way of releasing that pathway or down regulating it, each time we get triggered becomes an opportunity to go, right, here's another chance to build capacity. Wow, I felt terrified. I did that speech. I was nervous. I was shaking. You know what? It went a bit better than last time and I survived. And afterwards, I was okay. Then instead of avoiding that for the rest of my life, going, oh, I'm never going to do that, there's a little bit more capacity in our system that says, hey, I can get through that. And we grow a little bit more safety in our, literally like in our organism. The scales start to tip. There's more safety in us than danger. Again, this is where that sense of progress and getting people connected to the direction it's heading them in is so
Mhm.
profound. People are like, wow, I'm starting to feel there's more safety inside me as
Mhm.
these patterns let go. We get more grounded, we get more embodied, we get more capacity to then deal with stress and trauma and triggering situations. So we
Mhm.
actually start to build capacity and need less of our defenses, which ultimately starts to grow what I like to call neurophysiological maturity, which
Mhm.
means it's not just that I'm acting like a mature adult, it's that my nervous system is truly maturing. And I sometimes laugh. I reckon I'm at about 22 or 23-year-old. I'm 54, but
Mhm.
it's like my nervous system is like at a 22 or 23-year-old at the moment. It's like still
Yeah.
gets triggered, still does this, but it's much better. When I started doing TRE, I was like, hey, I'm like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
My system's
Yeah.
constantly like that.
Mhm.
So it is this way of developing this sense of groundedness or embodiment and authenticity and capacity in the nervous system where we have more capacity to be in quote unsafe environments
Mhm.
without us getting pulled up out of ourselves and having to act out and react to those environments because that's anchored deeper inside us. And as we know with everything, it's not just a cognitive process. If it was, I tell someone who's terrified, say, hey, just let it go. You're safe. You're fine. It
Right.
doesn't work. But when
Mhm.
people are anchored physiologically into that, we start to live from this place of, hey, there's something in me that's got this, that can
Mhm.
get through this. And
Mhm.
I've got the capacity to start to reawaken and re-expand into those areas of our life where we've, generally shut down to avoid our
Mhm.
triggers.
Yeah, I love it. It's so interesting the example you use with the ocean and the waves because I had Dr. Tony Nader on the podcast a few months ago, and he talked about consciousness and the ocean being the consciousness, and we are waves thinking that we're separate, and that's where like the fear is and everything. And so it's so interesting you talking about with that, with the example of like the body and that we are safe, and that's the truth of us. So
Mm.
it's the parallels between that like we're all one. The truth is safety, the truth is love, the truth is that we're all one, even though we can get stuck up in the waves and the clouds of the stories of what we think is truth sometimes. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's right. And the element that we lose is the body and the physical structure. I'll never forget. I had a session of TRE many, many years ago with David Berselli, and he was trying to help my body to tremor more, and he was trying all these different things to make it shake more. And in the end, he's like, "Oh, I give up. You're just too controlling and I can't help you." But at one point, he was pushing on my chest, and I was like, "David, you're pushing too hard. I can feel my body bracing.
Yeah.
You need to put softer, just be softer." And he was going a bit softer. And I remember thinking, you could drive a truck over my chest and it's just so tight and rigid, it's not going to let go. And
Mhm.
so I was guiding him to eventually just rest, just that's too much pressure. He ended up just resting his hand. And in that moment, I could just feel my body started to melt. So it wasn't even shaking, and like we talk about shaking and trembling or spontaneous movements and stretches and that. But for me, most of my deepest experiences, Kelly, come from just this sense of my body's melting, or there's like heat coming out from my armpits, or my muscles are just softening. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget that, and this is relevant to that analogy, that as I was lying there, I had this vision that, came to me as clear as day. I wrote a poem about it. I wrote a song about it. I did a painting about it, which was this sense that as I was sinking deeper and deeper into the ocean, all of a sudden I found the bottom of the ocean.
Mm.
That underneath, even at the bottom of the ocean and the power of the tides, there's ground underneath there. And so it felt like in that moment, again, this was that sort of visual vision or analogy. It was like,
Mhm.
wow, underneath all the movement and all the stress and all them, there's something more solid down
Mhm.
underneath the earth. And then all of a sudden things started to change for me where, you know, instead of thinking, oh, right, I'm going too deep, I've got to jump back out and come out of my body, there was
Mhm.
this sense of no, when I go further into my body, even below the tides, is the rock solid earth or the ground. And then it was more like, oh, I'm jumping up off the bottom of the ocean, getting swept around. But when I relax and let go, I come back and land on the solidity and the earth underneath. Now, again, please doesn't make me sound like I'm perfectly enlightened or I'm not, stressed out and like neurotic as everybody else.
Mhm.
But there's this deep embodied knowing that when I relax and I get out of the way and I calm my mind and I don't try to control things, that deeper inside me and the people I work with, and we see this, is this sense of solidity when we fully drop through and we hit the physical structure and the wisdom of the body that's beneath the narrative, beneath the emotions, and it's about integrating that. And most of us, we don't have that deep experience of like,
Mhm.
there's something inside me where that solidity, call it your soul, your life force, whatever it is somewhere there inside us, which is always, grounding us and is always there, no matter how turbulent, life goes. It's been such a profound, it's such a profound anchor,
Mhm.
even in the throes of all different life stresses and things going on in my life personally at the moment. There's just this little, it's like I can't deny that that's
Mhm.
in there,
Yeah.
underneath everything. it's
Yeah. It's so
it's so
powerful.
so profound.
Yeah, it's so powerful, especially when you are going through things externally and there's, obviously the stressors that never really go away. But when you can see the experience that you're having in that and on that, there is a groundedness to that, regardless of what's happening outside yourself. It really is a testament to the power of what you're doing and tuning into the body and connecting with the body. So it's absolutely profound. And I really appreciate everything you shared on safety because I think that's something that so many of us, experience things in life and feel very ungrounded, not safe, but allowing us to have this perspective and shift that in the shift our narrative on safety is really profound. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome, because so much of the narrative is about creating external safety, and that's not wrong. That's valuable.
Mhm.
But if we want true healing, we have to find that we have to find and connect and look within and find it, because generally when the shit hits the fan, we go back into our mind, into our ego heads. We try and control everything and fix everything, and that can be temporarily useful and relevant,
Mhm.
but it's not the kind of healing we're looking for. I always like to say, to people, somewhere between now and the moment that you die and go into the light, you're going to find that controlling is not going to work. When you're on your deathbed, all
Yeah.
those patterns, and my sort of supposition is part of the relief and the bliss that people experience in, death and near-death experiences, those moments of letting go of control and
Yeah.
surrendering deeper in. And this is part of the beauty of the practice of TREs. We can, on
Mhm.
a micro level, let go, surrender, give into our body. And as we practice that in surrendering into our body, it soon flows into learning and having more grace in surrendering to our
Mhm.
life as well. So yeah, look, I'm glad to at least touched on that
Mhm.
concept of safety. There's lots more for it, but ultimately it's about an embodied experience. So we could talk about it forever, but
Yeah.
I just encourage listeners, go and learn TRE, learn the tremoring, however you want to, because that's where it ultimately is going into your body rather than endlessly talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate everything you share because again, it's something I think is so relevant to all of us. At some point we've felt unsafe, or maybe we feel unsafe right now. So it's allowing us to just see that there is a different way to live and to feel more anchored in ourselves. So thank you again for everything, and I really appreciate it. I know it's going to help somebody who's listening right now.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. If there was something in this episode that really resonated with you, or a message that stuck with you, please share it with someone else. It's only through sharing these messages that we can start to rewire our minds to feel empowered and live the life that we truly desire. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. And again, thank you so much for tuning in to Rewiring Health.